It's no secret in the current financial climate, businesses, especially small businesses, are doing it tough. And new data from Centrix backs that up, revealing company liquidations are up 36% year on year. The hospitality sector is one of the most hard-hit industries. So to tell us about the challenges of operating in this space, we're joined by Chan Sarawat, who is the co-owner of 3 Auckland eateries, and chartered accountant Luke Kemes. Morena, you two, thank you so much for being with us. Luke, can I start with you? How tough is it out there for people at the moment?
Yeah, really tough, Matty. I think it's probably just the same for everyday Kiwis in terms of those things that they're facing. So interest costs rising, cost of living as such. So the pressures on costs for business owners is really tricky. And then couple that with the economy contracting, meaning that there's less money to collect. And that's when businesses really run into trouble and we start to see some of those liquidations. So if they start to not get paid, it can be very tricky to carry on trading. And that's where a lot of the problems start.
And we do see it as consumers. We see it, we hear about it. You go down a lot of main streets in towns and cities across the country, and there's so many empty office spaces, right? And a lot of for lease signs. Is it crunch time for businesses at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. There was some recent data from Xero that suggested that only 50% of small businesses are paying themselves at the moment. So that's the small business owners, and only 6% of them think that they're getting closer to their goals. So I think there's a big sentiment that things are really, really tricky, and there's probably some really tough conversations and decisions for a lot of businesses to make. And even some of our clients recently talking about, winding their business up and just getting out because it's not what it was that they wanted. And also maybe looking at moving to Australia, all those sorts of things that everyday Kiwis are thinking about, business owners are too.
Those are tough conversations to be having and to be hearing, I'm assuming, from your clients about having to wind up these businesses that they've put their heart and soul into, Luke.
Yeah, definitely, Maddie. Obviously, they can be very emotional as well, but at some stage you have to bring some rationale and logic to those conversations. So it's good to be able to provide an objective opinion in those situations, but certainly it can be very, very challenging for a business owner to let something like that go, especially when your identity can often be tied to that business.
Yeah. Chand, can you talk to me about how that plays out in the hospitality industry?
It is really up and down up there, and so it makes it really hard to predict how a week is going to look or forecast, because obviously our customers are hurting. They've got high mortgage rates suddenly, so we are seen as a disposable income thing. So that's the first thing to go. You're not going to eat out as much. You're not going to go out and watch as many movies. You're going to sit at home and do Netflix. But I think eating out is essential to our social fabric. We could see that happening in COVID as well. So this too shall pass is what I feel. And we are going into better times, I would say, in the hospitality industry. We're going into hopefully a summer that we haven't had last year. So there's need for optimism and holding on to that optimism, because hopefully Christmas will help us all recover a little bit, but cash flow is tight out there. We've had increasing wage costs like never before, 38% increases in wage cost. You're talking about 12.5% increases in food costs. So all those things have made eating out expensive.
And that plays into how successful a business is or isn't. I read a stat that said 60 to 70% of all new hospitality businesses fail in their first 18 months of operation. So how tough is it out there for businesses?
Well, we're all finding that cash flow is really hard, because if you don't have that much, and one of the biggest things people or hospitality owners are really worried about right now is a downturn in customers coming in.
Yeah.
The Restaurant Association did a recent survey where they found 34% of owners were really worried about a customer downturn. And then mental health is quite bad because of it, because you have to think about small business owners have the same issues like Luke was saying. We all have high mortgage rates suddenly. We have cash flow issues. We're also concerned about where the economy is going. And this recession actually feels really different from the one in 2009, because we've come on the back of COVID. We don't have the savings that we had back in 2009. We're in an election year where there's uncertainty, and we've had poor weather. Like for us, we've been affected personally by 2 lots of poor weather this year and last year. So customers are really not coming out as much. So you've got all this anxiety and you need to work through it. And I would say start actually planning financial planning before you get to the stage where you need to wind your business up.
I want to talk about that with you, Luke, that advice for businesses out there who are feeling that pinch. What do you say to people?
Yeah, it's really hard, Maddie, because I think a lot of people come to a chartered accountant and hope that there's a silver bullet, but really there's not. It's exactly like Chan just said. You need to be planning. You really need to know your numbers, especially in an economic environment like this. You've got to look after yourself. You've got to set your mindset up as well around what you expect it to be like. We've been speaking to our clients for quite some time now about expecting to be in a slow grind and just getting through that week to week, month to month. And like I say, understanding your numbers. And if you don't, you really need to reach out and ask for help so that you can avoid needing, the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, so to speak. But also, one that's a little bit left field is banking some of those wins that you do have in business and celebrating those and being grateful for them and writing those things down, because in a contracting economy, it can feel very, very challenging. So we do have to take the time where we are getting wins to recognise those. Otherwise, it can continuously feel like it's just a grind and it is really hard.
Hey, I really appreciate both of you coming on the show and for your insight and for your advice as well. That's Chartered Accountant Luke Kemes and restaurant owner Chan Sarawat. And I love your optimism, Chan, and this too shall pass, as you say. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
No worries.